In this video we're going to be looking at the technical model and how it is used. The technical model is used to assess performance in sport. A technical model describes performance based on the technique of a skill, like a tackle in rugby, using purely qualitative data. It is meant to show the perfect technique, but this is very subjective as many professional athletes use different techniques which work just as effectively. For example, in basketball, some people may say that Klay Thompson uses the perfect technique, but Lonzo Ball uses a very different shot technique and is a very good shooter as well. The technical model is split into three phases of performance: the preparation, the execution, and the recovery stage. For example, for a tackle in rugby, the preparation would be lunging into the player and opening your arms wide. The execution would be wrapping your arms around the opponent and taking him to the floor, and the recovery would be releasing from the player, ensuring you win the ruck. Generally, this is very good for coaches as it can help them to improve their players' skill sets. However, a player may use a different technique which works well for them, and if the coach tries to change this, then it may not work as well for that player. So coaches must know what players to use a technical model with. There are many ways you can determine the perfect technical model, as it can be very subjective. You can determine a perfect technique based on elite level performance by looking at the players with the most effective skills over a whole season, and this could show what the perfect technique should look like. Also, you can use literature to determine a perfect technique. Both of these ways are subjective as it is based on opinion, but using an elite performer's technique could be seen as objective, as the player is very efficient with the skill being looked at and is likely to be the most efficient in the world. In order to collect data on a technical model, you can watch live games, performances, or practices in order to see an elite athlete's technique, or the player that you may be coaching, so that you can tell them how to improve. Also, you can watch filmed footage in order to pause and rewind so that you can magnify the smallest faults in the technique to make it perfect. There is a lot of software which can be used to make this process even easier. This is because it allows you to slow down or speed up the footage. You can show joint angles when the skill is being performed and even highlight certain areas of the body which you want to look at. One example of this would be SlowPro, which allows you to massively speed up or slow down footage, allowing you to see every slight bit of movement made by the player. Another piece of software you could use is the coach's eye. This is used to highlight specific joints in the body when a skill is being performed, or to highlight a specific body part. With this, you can also slow down the video to see it more clearly, but it cannot be slowed down as much as SlowPro. Finally, you can use Dartfish, which is used to highlight certain parts of a piece of footage so that you can remember what happened at what time in the video. This is very useful for coaches as it allows them to quickly go to a certain part of the footage. Therefore, a coach can highlight all of the times that a player uses the wrong technique, and from this help the player to improve this technique in games. There is also many other software which you can use, but these are the top three, in my opinion. I've chosen to analyse the box out in basketball as this is very relevant to any position in basketball if you want to stop the opposition getting second chance points. The main point of a box out is not to only give yourself a better chance of getting a rebound, but to prevent your opponent from getting a rebound even if this means that you do not get the rebound yourself. For example, if the opposition take a shot, you'd box out the player that you are defending so that they do not get close to the basket. Once the ball has bounced off the rim, the closest player on your team to the ball should grab the rebound, but they should always focus on boxing out before trying to get the rebound, especially if you are smaller than the opposition, as you are not likely to beat your opponent in the air. The first stage of a box out is the preparation. On the left you can see a perfect example of preparation for a box out. This is because she uses the three main coaching points, which are to feel your opponent, see the ball, and maintain a low stance. Therefore, you can remember this as feel, see, and stay low. You must feel your opponent so that you know where they are and they don't get in front of you, as this would give them an advantage. Secondly, you should see the ball so that you can anticipate what direction the ball is going to bounce and therefore know if you need to push your opponent further back. Finally, you must keep a low stance so that you have a good balance so that your opponent cannot easily get in front of you or move you forward. On the right, you can see the preparation phase for Billy's box out. From this image, you can see that he's done the first 2 points very well, as he is feeling his opponent and knows where he is and can see the ball, and will be able to anticipate where it will go. However, his stance is not great as his feet are close together and he is not in a low stance. This means that his opponent can easily get in front, as if he tries to fight through the box out, Billy is likely to fall over due to his off-balance stance. The second stage of a box out is the execution. This is where the box out and the rebound occur. On the far left you can see the box out, where he is keeping his arms and his whole body as wide as possible in order to block his opponent's path, so he cannot get the rebound. Also, you can see that he's keeping a low stance to maintain a well-balanced position, so that he doesn't get pushed over or fall over. Once the ball has bounced off the rim, you must jump vertically off 2 feet towards the ball in order to catch the rebound before your opponent. You should jump off 2 feet, as you will gain more power when jumping off 2 feet from a stationary position. On the right, you can see Billy's execution phase. The image on the top shows his box out, which shows that he has used a great technique for the box out. This is because he keeps his arms wide and as a result blocks his opponent from getting in front of him. As well as this, he has a low stance during his box out, helping him to block his defender as it allows him to keep his balance. However, although the box out is very good, the second part of the execution phase is fairly poor. This is because Billy jumps too late and so catches the ball fairly low to the ground. This could result in another member of the opposition getting the rebound before him. In future, Billy should make sure he jumps earlier and gets as high as he can. Also, he jumps with his legs out to the side and so could injure himself when landing, or even fall over. Finally, the recovery stage of a box out is very important, as if this is not done properly, the ball can be stolen easily. Also, this is where you push the ball on offense and can get easy fast break points. The image on the left shows the perfect model. This is because the player looks over his shoulder so that he can see the whole court. Therefore, he can see if there are any defenders coming to try and steal the ball, and he can see where his teammates are in order to make a successful outlet pass. As well as this, he protects the ball well by holding it firmly with 2 hands and sticks his elbows out so that the opposition cannot get close enough to grab the ball. This is important so that the smaller players cannot come and smack the ball out of his hands, and the stronger players cannot rip the ball from his hands. Billy's recovery phase is probably the weakest phase of his box out. This is because he doesn't look over his shoulder, so he was not aware that there were no defenders when making his outlet pass. Also, if he looked at the whole court, there may have been a teammate in a better position, and they could have scored a fast break point if he made a good outlet pass. Also, Billy does not protect the ball after grabbing the rebound, so the opposition could easily steal the ball from him. There are many benefits to this method of analysis, one of which would be that it is split into 3 phases, which makes it easier to analyse the technique by seeing how well the athlete completes each phase, and therefore you can help them to improve specific phases rather than the skill as a whole. Also, you can film the skill and replay it so that the player can see visually where they have gone wrong, and this is great for visual learners. Also, you can place the footage onto software so that you can see it in slow motion and put it next to an elite athlete for comparison. This means that you can see exactly what is wrong with the technique, and therefore it will be much easier for the coach to help improve the player's technique. As well as this, unlike notational analysis, technical analysis uses qualitative data, which means that it provides reasons why the technique or skill is bad or good. Therefore, it can show athletes why their technique may be ineffective, and so can compare this to the perfect technique to help improve theirs. However, there are also many limitations to technical analysis. For example, you need technical knowledge in order to use this, because if you do not know what the perfect technique is, then you cannot analyse a player's performance or technique effectively. Also, it is very hard to use this analysis live, as skills occur very quickly, and so you may not be able to analyse the three phases of the skill whilst watching the live game. This means that you may have to buy a video recorder, which can be very expensive, and so if you do not have a lot of funding, then you may not be able to do this. Even if you do have the video camera, you may not be able to capture the best angles, so you may not be able to see the skill in the right place. Also, to break down the skill properly, you should use software like Coach's Eye or SlowPro. But software like this can be very expensive, and so again, without the correct funding, you may not be able to use this. Finally, the quality of a skill can be confused with success. This is because people can score using a bad technique, and someone that does not have knowledge on the skill may mistake this for a good technique. Also, different athletes may have different player styles and may use a technique which is different from the perfect technique, but works very well for them. Therefore, younger players may look at elite athletes with a different technique and try to adopt this style, which is generally less effective.